All right, anyway, so we're going to do section 3 today. We may spend, maybe this week, I'm not sure about the last lesson. I think it will take 3 periods. In the 4th period, we'll see. We might have to do some harder ones or maybe look at some in the homework or something like that. So what I'm going to do now, I will derive this formula. So I'm going to go over here, out the way. So I've got somewhere to write. So imagine you've got your equation. Like, for example, you might have had 2x squared minus 3x plus 5 equals 0. And we solve it to get x equals something plus or minus something on something. It might have looked like that, right? So that might have been your solution. But now instead of using numbers, we'll have A, B, and C. So for example, if we had ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and we want to rearrange this to be x equals something, because that would be your solution, won't it? Solutions could be 2 solutions. So we want to change this equation by, actually we want a complete square. That's why we learned completing square. Complete the square. That's what we'll do now. You don't have to learn this method and be able to do it on the test. It's not something you have to remember, but if you remember the procedure, it's actually very easy to do. So imagine we were doing this as we did last week with complete square. The first thing you would have done would have been move the c, right? So we would have ax squared plus bx equals minus c. So that's exactly the same as last week. And now you've got a number here, a, and a may not be 1. It could be some other number. So now we'll divide everything by a. So we'll have divide a, divide a, divide a. So just like last week, and then that will cancel that number. Whatever a is, it will cancel out. So then we'll just get x squared. So then we'll have x squared plus b on a x equals minus c on a. Scroll up a little bit. So if you're writing this down, you can, but it's actually in your book. All right, so now what we do, this was our middle number, bx. So it's b on a. So if it's b on a, we will divide that by 2 and then we square it. Remember, just like last week. So you'll get b on 2a all squared. So I'll leave it like that for the time being. So we'll put that back into here. So x squared plus b on ax plus, that should be b on 2a all squared. And I will put that number in the front here. So in here, I'll put it in the front of the minus c on a. So b on 2a all squared minus c on a. So this is like last week. Now this is the complete square here. So we would have x plus b on 2a. So the square root of that is b on 2a all squared. So that is the complete square here. And then we'll put this together here. So I had, what I'll do, I'll make that, now I'll square top and bottom. So b squared on 2a all squared. So that's 4a squared minus c on a. Okay. So what I'm going to do now on the right side, I will make this into one fraction. So now you've got a 4a squared here, but an a here only. So I'll multiply top and bottom by 4a. 4a, top and bottom. This will make a common denominator here. That's why I did that. So x plus b on 2a all squared equals, now we have a common denominator, 4a squared. And b squared minus 4ac on top. Like that. So I just made this into one fraction because 4a squared is a common denominator, okay? You've actually done this, but actually using numbers last week. So now I can square root both sides. Like that. To cancel this square here. Same as last week. So we'll have x plus b on 2a equals, and this is plus or minus, you've got square root b squared minus 4ac divided by the square root of 4a squared. And the square root of 4a squared would be 2a. Okay, 2a times 2a is 4a squared. Yeah, so this would be 2a on the bottom and plus or minus here. So then that b on 2a will come over. See, it's quite long, isn't it? I think there are actually quicker ways to do this for getting the formula, but this is one way. So x equals minus b on 2a plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all on 2a. Now you see you have a common denominator here, 2a. So we'll make this into one fraction. So minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all on 2a. So that's your equation rearranged. So that's actually your formula. You're going to need to remember this one. But if you write it down every question and then just fill the numbers in, you'll get your value of x. Okay. So that's how you get your formula. It's actually really not that hard to remember. But important thing, let's go back. Yeah, but it's only complete square method. That's all I did. I didn't do anything special with that. It's in your textbook too, you will see in your book. Okay, so that's on page 182. You can look there, it's there again. So this is your formula. Someone got mic on?
Teacher, may I go to Thailand, please?
Yeah, all right. Okay, so that's your equation. Now we have, this method is very useful because many questions you can't factorize. And this formula is probably the fastest way to get the answer. So if you don't need to complete square, this is the other way you can do it. This is like the shorthand for completing square. This is the quick way. Okay, the long way is what I just showed you. That's how you complete square. So an important part of this formula is this bit here called the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac. That bit is under your formula here. You see that there? B squared minus 4ac. Now we call that the discriminant. That has a special name because it's called discriminant because it discriminates between how many solutions you have. Because remember last week when you tried to solve the equation, some of them came up as no real solution, and that's no real solution, and that's what we got here. So take a look here. Now, if this sign is negative, so if you've got, for example, x equals 2 plus or minus square root negative 3 on 5. So if this number is less than 0, that means negative, right? Negative, like here. So if you've got an answer that comes up like that, we say no real roots. Okay, there's no real root because you've got a negative underneath the square root sign. And this is actually an imaginary number. I should write that down, or actually, I'll write a complex number. So complex, complex solution. So this is not a real number. Complex numbers, you need a different diagram to draw them. You don't draw them on the real number line. The other case you get is if this value is 0. So for example, if you had x equals -3 plus or minus root 0 on 4. Imagine you got 0 here. So root 0 is 0, so it gets ignored. So you're going to get, you're going to get 2 solutions, but they're the same number. So you get -3 plus 0 on 4, -3 minus 0 on 4. And obviously the 0 doesn't do anything, does it? So that will cancel off. And you just actually get one answer. So -3 on 4. So there's actually 2 answers, but they're the same, right? You're going to get one from this one and one from that one, but it's one real root. It's just one answer. So one real root. There are actually 2, but they're the same value. So when you do your work, just tell me one number, okay? And then normally you previously found most of the questions have 2 roots, 2 solutions. Okay, so example, x is 1 plus or minus root 3 on 6, something like that, where you get the middle number being positive, greater than 0. So negative, 0, and this is positive. Greater than 0 just means positive number. You got that? So there's 3 possible answers you can get when you do these problems. All right. Now I better look at my answer key because I don't want to use my calculator to do any complex thing here. So for example, let's see what we got here. In the following equation, identify the values of A, B, and C. Hence, use the discriminant to determine how many real solutions there are. Solution and root. Root is like a technical name for the solution. Okay, it's the same thing. Root, solution. We use the word zeros, Z-E-R-O-S, when we do graphing, but that's for later on. Okay, so we want to know how many solutions does this have? So how many solutions? But I'm not going to try and solve it. Okay, so I want to know how many solutions, but don't try and solve it. So what we have here, we have -2x squared plus 3x. I'll put the 3x in here, plus 3x. I'm just rearranging it. Okay, and the 1 I'll bring over. So that's -1 equals 0. So you need to write it in this form. So it needs to be in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay, so get it in that form there first. So whenever you see a quadratic, you need to write it in this form, especially when you're doing this method and when you complete square. We always need it looking like this first. So here you can see that A is -2, B is 3, C is -1. So these are the numbers you use, and I want you to put them in the discriminant here. So write your formula for discriminant. Let's call it D. D for discriminant is B squared minus 4AC. Okay, we want to know, is that 0 or is it negative or positive? So b squared is 3 squared minus 4 times a is minus 2, c is minus 1. So you're going to have 9 minus 4 times minus 2 times minus 1 is 2. So 9 minus 4 2s are 8, which is 1. And 1 is positive, right? I don't care whether it's 1 or 500, it's positive. The main thing is the sign. So this is positive, or the discriminant is positive. So there are 2 real roots. So that was this one up here. Okay, so we found the value is positive. So we know there's going to be 2 answers. So if you want to, then you can go and solve the equation. But we know there will be 2 answers. Okay, look at another one. You can copy that down if you want, but that's the way that you do it. Okay, in this question, it's already in the correct form. And it says solve the following equation. So now we need to try to solve it. So look at our equation. We can see that a is minus 1. B is minus 3. C is 5. So these are the 3 numbers you should write first. And then the next step, we should write down the quadratic formula. So x equals minus b plus or minus. You can use capital B or small b. Doesn't matter. B squared minus 4ac all on 2a. That goes right underneath the minus b as well, not just the root sign all the way. Okay, so once you've written your formula, you should substitute the numbers that you got here. So, and you will need a calculator at the end if I want the exact form, the decimal form. So x equals minus b. Now you've got minus negative 3. Okay, let's put it like that. Plus or minus b squared, so minus 3 squared, minus 4 times a, which is minus 1, times c, which is 5, like that, all on 2a. 2 times minus 1. Okay, I'm writing quite big here, so I hope I don't run out of space. So x equals, now minus negative 3 is plus 3. So be careful here. Some students make an error with this part. If b is negative, your value here will become positive. So just be wary about this here. So that's 3 plus or minus the square root of minus 3 squared is 9. Minus 4 times minus 1 is 4. 4 times 5 is 20. So plus 20 here on minus 2. So you're going to get 3 plus or minus root 29 on minus 2. And from that, you'll end up with minus 4.19 and 1.19. Excuse me. So today we won't do any on the item pool because I'm just kind of teaching the method. Maybe tomorrow, but more likely the following day. Okay, so that's for 2 decimal places. This is your third form or exact form. So this is 2 decimal places. And we can call that exact form. So this is no rounding off, okay? You have to see what I ask in the question. Do I want exact form or do I want decimal form? So it may depend on what I ask for. I normally write it in decimal, 2 decimal places, okay, like that. So that's another example. So these ones are in your textbook. So we'll go through these ones. Maybe you can try one yourself first. Okay, so this is the example in your book. If you have your textbook, it's already written there. But if you're on your tablet, you can write this one down. I'll give you a few minutes to try it. Okay, so just try that yourself for a couple of minutes and see if you can get the correct answer. But the first thing to do, write A, 4, B -3, C is -2. Okay, so that's your first bit. Might make that a little larger. Okay, so write your formula each time. So you've got X is minus B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC, all on 2A. If you write it down in this section of work, each question, I think by the end you'll remember the formula. Okay, so just put your numbers in. X equals minus B minus -3 plus or minus B squared minus 3 squared minus 4. A is 4. C is -2. All on 2A. So you can get 3. Make it bigger again. Okay. So 3 plus or minus the square root of -3 squared is 9. Minus 4 times 4 is -16 times 2. That's going to be 32. And that's going to be plus 32. All on 2A. And A is 4. So that's going to be 8. Like that. So you'll end up with 3 plus or minus root 41 on 8, which is 1.18 minus 0.43, like that. So that's your solution. So these questions are really done all the same way. I'm going to find something different for you to do later that might be more interesting than just sticking numbers in. Okay, so this one, I won't bother with the formula. We'll just kind of write to save a bit of space. So X is minus B minus -42 plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times 49. So at this point, you would need your calculator because the numbers are pretty big on 2A, 2 9s are 18. If you were trying to complete the square here, you can see this would be quite hard, wouldn't it? Because there's lots of fractions involved with this one. But this one ends up being 42 plus or minus root 1764 minus 1764. So I think you can stop here because you're only going to get one solution, aren't you? Because this will become 0 on 18. So this bit here is actually going to be 0, isn't it? This will be 0. So this root sign can be ignored now. So you're only going to get one solution, 42 on 18, because that equals to 0 there. And that would be 7 on 3, like that. So just be aware of what's going on here with the root sign, because that part will be equal to 0. Okay, so hopefully you're getting the idea. A couple more. So that one was, so x is minus b minus negative 10 plus or minus b squared, so minus 10 squared, minus 4 times a times c, all on 2a, 2 5s are 10, like that. So you're going to end up with 10 plus or minus 100 minus 260. Now you see your problem now. This here is going to be negative, isn't it? This part is negative. So you're going to get no solution here, no real solution. So that's your discriminant is negative. So no real solution here. You can stop. No real solution for that. So you can't, what that's telling you is that you can't put a number in here and get 0. Cannot. So whatever you try to put in here, it's going to be a positive number. It looks like it'll always be positive in this case. So you'll never get 0 by putting any number in here. So if you put minus 5 or any number, you cannot get 0. It doesn't matter what you're going to try, it's not going to work. So no real solution for that one. Now this one here is not in the correct form, is it? ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So you're going to need to write it in this form. So we expand first. So 2x squared plus 10 equals 5x plus 10 plus 1. So just multiply out the bracket and then put them all together on the left side. So 2x squared minus 5x. Now, if you bring the 10 over, you'll get 10 minus 10. So that's actually going to cancel. So cut that off, because when you move it, it will subtract itself. And then bring your 1 over to become minus 1. Like that. Okay, so then we use our formula because now we have the correct form. So x equals minus b minus negative 5 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 5 squared minus 4 times a times c, all on 2a, 2 times 2, like that. So we're going to get 5 plus or minus 25 minus, that's going to be plus 8, isn't it? 4 times 2 minus 8 times 1, 8 plus 8 on 4. So that's going to give us 5 plus or minus root 33 on 4. Oh, and I didn't write the decimal, so you can check that yourself. On my answer key, I didn't write the decimal. Anyway, so that's the answer in third form. And you can calculate that to decimal if you want for your working. Okay, so that's basically the way it's working. Oh, this one more. What's next? Oh, exercise 4 for you to do in a minute. So look at this one. Now, when you have a fraction equals a fraction, when we're doing these kinds of problems, or algebraic, any kind of algebraic problem, when you want to solve, we cross multiply here. So this number or this term will go up to here. And this term or whatever is written here, that part will go up to here like that. So what you do here, when you've got a fraction equals a fraction, we bring the 3 to the top. And then we'll bring the 2x to the top here. That's the shortcut. This is a shortcut for doing this. I'll show you the long way in a minute, but this is what you'll end up with here, and we'll expand it. If you do it the long way, you see you've got a 3 here. So we'll multiply 3 by both sides, and that will cancel. Okay, and then you've got 2x here, so we use that multiplied to both sides. Like that. You see, you get the same thing. So there's 2 ways that you can do this problem. But the quickest way is just cross multiply. So 3 times x, 3x minus 15 equals 2x squared minus 8x. Okay, now we can go 2 ways here. You can bring these numbers to this side. You can bring these over here, or you can bring these over here. It doesn't matter because you'll get the same answer. So what I'll do, I'll bring these numbers to this side because I like my a to be positive. So I'll bring these numbers over to here. So I'll end up with 2x squared minus 8x minus 3x plus 15 equals 0. Equals 0 can go on either end, doesn't matter. So you've got 2x squared minus 11x plus 15 equals 0. So this is the equation that we solve. And you will see these. I think some of you can do these already, no problem. But if you had a problem with these question, I think we'll do a few more this week, maybe on the last period. We'll get to some harder ones. So, okay, so without writing the formula, now we have minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all on 2a, and that will be x. Okay, so when you get used to the formula, it's relatively quickly to do and quicker than completing square as well. So minus negative 11 is 11. Plus or minus square root minus 11 squared, 121. 4 times 2 to 15, that's minus 120. All on 4. So this is actually going to be a question that could have been factorized. So 11 plus or minus 121 minus 120 is 1 on 4. And root 1 is 1, so you'll get 11 plus 1 on 4. 11 minus 1 on 4. Getting it? So you will have 2 solutions because this number is positive. 1 is positive, of course. So 11 plus 1, 12. 12 on 4 is 3. 11 minus 1, 10. 10 on 4, which would be 5 on 2, which is 2.5. So actually, that question could have been factorized. So if I just asked you to solve this question, factorizing may have been quicker. So the factors would have been, so let's look at what the factors would have been. What are the factors? So we had x equals 3. If you work backwards, put your 3 on the other side. X minus 3 equals 0. So your factor there was x minus 3. That's one of the factors. This solution was x equals 5 on 2. So multiply both sides by 2, you'll get 2x equals 5. So 2x minus 5 equals 0. That's the second factor. That's how you get the factors if you have the solution using this method. So that 3 there is here. That's the 5 on 2 there. So your factors would have been x minus 3 and 2x minus 5. You can go between those two. So if you have the root, the solution, you can find the factor just by going backwards here. And same for that one there. So factorizing may have been a bit quicker in that question. All right, so we only got 10 minutes. So take a look here. We'll do these more tomorrow. Also, one thing, when you've got a question like this, before we go here, because you'll need this. If you've got, for example, 3x squared minus 2x plus 4 equals 0, in this case, A is 3, B is minus 2, C will be 4, yes? Now, if you put all of these numbers on the other side, put them over there, what do you get? Minus 3x squared plus 2x minus 4 equals 0. So move all numbers, all terms. You'll get that. In this case, A will be minus 3, B will be 2, C will be minus 4. So there's two ways to do the problem, and you'll get the same answer. So if you do it this way and solve, you'll get an answer. And if you use these and solve, you'll get another answer, but you'll get the same answer. So these will give the same answer, both sets. So in the table here, let's take a look. I'll help you with the first bit. You can solve, maybe we'll do the solutions tomorrow. Okay, we'll start solving tomorrow. But the first thing you can do here is what is A, B, and C? Okay, so in this question, you can fill this in now yourself. Let's do a couple. A is 2, B is 3, C is minus 7. So A is 2, B is 3, C is minus 7. Now this has two possible answers. There's actually a lot of value you can use for A, B, and C and still get the same answer. So one here could be these numbers. So minus 4, minus 5, 10. So minus 4, minus 5, minus 10, okay? But what if you put them on the other side? You would have had 4x squared plus 5x minus 10 equals 0, just by putting the numbers to the other side, the terms to the other side. So in this case, you're going to get 4, 5, minus 10. But you'll only get one solution. So don't do it twice. You'll get the same answer, okay? All right, so you try them yourself. Fill some in yourself. We'll do some in a minute, but we only have a few minutes left. Look at question 5. You've got 10 minus 20, 30. If you bring the 30 over, you'll get minus 30, won't you? So we'll have 10 minus 20 and minus 30, like that. But What if you divided everything by 10? Let's make the numbers smaller. So this is another thing you can do to get some different ABCs. So divide 10, divide 10, divide 10. What will you get? You'll get 3x squared minus 2x minus 3 equals 0 when you bring that over here. Okay, so now you have another set of A, B, and C, and these will work as well. 3 minus 2 minus 3. So that's another set that you can do. But again, only solve it one time. There'll only be one solution here. One set of solutions. All right, so you fill them in for 5 minutes and I'll write some in a minute. See how you're going. We'll solve them tomorrow, so don't bother solving today because we don't have time. So, okay, so fill in this part here, but we'll do solutions tomorrow. We come to here, okay? So do some of those now for 5 minutes. So in question 3 here, you could use a half. Okay, let's just use that. We won't bother to change that one. So A is a half. B is 2. Now, if we bring the 10 over, you need to bring the 10 to the other side. Don't leave it on that side because we need 0 here, equals 0. So that would be 10, like that. And then this one, you got minus 7x squared plus x squared. So we could bring these numbers, I don't know which side you took them, but I would bring them to this side. So you're going to get 7x squared plus x squared. So that's 8x squared minus 12 equals 0. So in this case, A is 8, but notice there's no B term. There's no X term here at all. So that means that must be 0. So I could have written the 0x in here, can't I? Because 0x is 0. So in this case, B would be 0 and C was minus 12, like that. Okay, and then question 6. Now you have no C term. You've actually got a plus 0 in here. So A will be 7, B will be 3, and C will be 0. So sometimes these numbers are 0, just be aware of that, except for the x squared. You won't have 0x squared, that wouldn't be a quadratic anymore. Okay, so these have 2 possible answers. So the first one, minus 5 for A, B is minus 2, C is 17. But you could put all of these on the other side, couldn't you? And then all the signs would change. So then you'll end up with 5x squared, 2x minus 17, like that. Again, you would only solve one. Don't try to solve both of them, you get the same answer. In question 8, it looks like you could divide by 9. Write the first one out. We'd have 9x squared, so 9. Bring the 36x over, you'll get minus 36x, so minus 36. And C is 36, like that. Okay, so hopefully you're copying, or hopefully you're ahead of me, actually. You should be ahead of me. But I'm thinking for this one, instead of moving them, how about you divide by 9? Because I think that will make your work easier when you do your formula. So if you've got smaller numbers, that's better than using big numbers. So go for small numbers. So this will be x squared plus 4 And if that comes over, that would be minus 4x equals 0. So A here is 1. B is minus 4, because that's minus 4x, so minus 4. And then C is 4. I just didn't rearrange this bit here. All right, so that one is here. And the 4, the C value is in the middle there, like that. Okay, I think we'll stop there. You can fill the rest in yourself. And then tomorrow we'll solve some of these ones here, okay? So I got up to here, and then we'll continue from there. So tomorrow, you put the rest of these numbers in. You can do that now if you want, while you are waiting for your next lesson. So try to do them, and then tomorrow we'll start solving some, and then see how you go. And then on the following day, we may go to do some on the item pool as well. So by tomorrow, you should know how to do this, all right, by tomorrow.